Have you ever noticed that often those who rise to power aren't the kindest or most ethical among us? This observation haunted Friedrich Nietzsche, who wrote, "In this world, the predator often feasts while the lamb contemplates morality." Today, we'll explore why our social systems frequently reward those willing to step on others, and what this means for your own journey. By the end, you'll see both the shadows of our collective structures and the light of your own authentic path forward. Let's begin with a question that might feel uncomfortable. What if the game is rigged not by accident, but by design? Look around at the leaders in business, politics, and even local communities. Have you noticed a pattern? Those who seem most comfortable with manipulation, with bending rules, often climb highest. Nietzsche diagnosed this phenomenon through his concept of will to power. He saw that human systems naturally create hierarchies where the most power-hungry rise, not necessarily the wisest or most compassionate. This isn't just philosophy, it's your daily reality. That promotion that went to the office politician rather than the dedicated worker. The elected official who speaks in divisive rhetoric rather than nuanced truth. What Nietzsche realized was that our systems aren't neutral playing fields. They're architectural structures that inherently favor certain traits, often the very ones we claim to despise. Consider the corporate ladder. Who climbs faster, the person who stays late helping colleagues, or the one who takes credit for others' work while charming the boss? The uncomfortable truth is that power structures reward those willing to see others as means rather than ends. Those comfortable with what psychologists call dark triad traits, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Perhaps you felt this tension yourself. That moment when you realized speaking truth might cost your position. When authenticity seemed like a liability rather than an asset. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever compromised your values to fit into a system? How did that feel in your body, in your heart? Carl Jung would describe this as a soul-splitting moment, when your persona, social mask, separates from your authentic self. The greater this split, the greater your inner suffering. The tragedy is that our social contracts often demand this split. The teacher who must follow rigid curriculum rather than what children need. The doctor rushing patients to meet quotas. This isn't random, it's systemic. Our institutions evolved to reward compliance over consciousness, achievement over authenticity, productivity over presence. Consider this metaphor. Imagine a garden where only the most aggressive plants receive water and sunlight. Over generations, what kind of garden would you create? That's our world. A garden where certain traits flourish because the environment favors them. Not because they're inherently better, but because the system feeds them specifically. We've created what philosopher Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil systems where normal people can participate in harmful processes without feeling responsible. Just following the rules. Just doing their jobs. Pause for a moment. Think about a system you participate in. What behaviors does it subtly reward? What parts of yourself does it ask you to silence? Now let's explore why these systems persist. The answer lies partly in our collective shadow, those aspects of humanity we pretend don't exist. Systems that reward the worst people survive because we deny our own darkness. We project it onto bad apples rather than examining the orchard that produces them. Psychologist Robert Hare studied corporate psychopaths and found something chilling. Our economic systems specifically favor those who can make difficult decisions without emotional interference, who can downsize thousands without losing sleep. The brilliant insight from Nietzsche was seeing that our moral structures often serve the powerful, not the other way around. Morality can be a control mechanism disguised as virtue. This manifests in countless ways. The employee who questions unethical practices becomes not a team player. The whistleblower becomes disloyal rather than courageous. Consider how often we celebrate people who do whatever it takes to succeed. We've created mythologies around ruthless founders, aggressive CEOs, and uncompromising leaders. This continues because it's profitable. Systems that prioritize growth above all else naturally select for those comfortable sacrificing everything else, including humanity, for results. And here's the most uncomfortable truth: we're all complicit. Each time we choose convenience over ethics, price over fair labor, we vote for these systems with our dollars and attention. Think of it as a play where we all know the script is flawed, yet we keep performing our roles. Why? Because stepping off stage feels risky, unknown. Philosopher Slavoj Žižek noted that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Our inability to envision alternatives keeps us trapped. The psychological toll is immense. We develop what psychologists call moral injury, the trauma that comes from participating in systems that violate our deepest values. Take a moment to feel this tension. Where in your life do you sense this conflict between what's rewarded and what feels right? What emotions arise when you acknowledge this? The systems persist through normalized disconnection. We separate our actions from their consequences through complex chains of responsibility where no one feels fully accountable. Consider the smartphone in your pocket. Do you know the conditions of those who mined its minerals? Who assembled it? The system works by keeping these realities at arm's length. Theologian Thomas Merton captured this perfectly. People may spend their whole lives climbing the ladder of success only to find, once they reach the top, that the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. The walls our ladders lean against were built by those who benefit most from their architecture. Power preserves itself by making alternatives seem impossible or childishly naive. But history shows that systems can change, though rarely without resistance from those they most benefit. Remember this when you feel powerless. So what can we do? If Nietzsche diagnosed the illness, where might we find healing? The answer begins not with changing others, but with reclaiming your own authentic power. First, practice radical awareness. Notice when you're being asked to split from your values. The system thrives on unconsciousness. Your awareness is revolutionary. As psychologist Carl Rogers said, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. This acceptance isn't passive. It's the foundation for authentic action. Start with small, courageous acts. Speaking truth doesn't always mean grand gestures. Sometimes it's quietly declining to participate in gossip. Sometimes it's asking the uncomfortable question in a meeting. Develop what philosophers call critical consciousness, the ability to see systems rather than just individual actions. Learn to ask, who benefits from this arrangement? Whose voice is missing? Find your community of truth-tellers. Isolation makes resistance impossible. As anthropologist Margaret Mead noted, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Practice ethical consumption when possible. Every purchase is a vote for a type of world. No, you can't be perfect, but conscious choices create ripples. Consider the metaphor of water reshaping stone. Systems seem immovable, yet consistent pressure, even from something as soft as water, eventually transforms the hardest surfaces. Cultivate what Nietzsche himself valued, your own authentic power. Not power over others, but the power that comes from creating meaning aligned with your deepest truth. This might look like choosing a career path with less status but more integrity. It might mean building a business with ethics at its core. Remember that systems are ultimately made of people making choices. Your choices matter, especially in your sphere of influence, your family, workplace, community. Psychologist Jung believed that wholeness for humans depends on the ability to own their own shadow, to integrate rather than project the darker aspects of being human. When you accept your own capacity for darkness, you're less likely to be manipulated by leaders who exploit denial. You develop immunity to those who promise simplistic solutions. Ask yourself, what small kingdom am I responsible for? How can I bring more justice, more humanity into that space? Start there. Consider the archetype of the holy fool, the one who speaks truth regardless of consequence. Where might you embody this energy, even in small ways? The path forward isn't about burning everything down. It's about building alongside, creating microsystems of integrity that demonstrate alternatives are possible. Take a moment now. Breathe deeply. What one action, however small, feels aligned with your deepest truth? That's your next step. As we conclude, remember that Nietzsche wasn't just diagnosing the illness. He was pointing toward a cure. Become who you are, he challenged us. In a world where systems often reward the worst behaviors, your greatest revolution is living from your deepest authenticity. Not perfectly, but persistently. You don't need to transform every system. Begin with the one you inhabit in your own heart and mind. Then extend outward, one relationship, one choice at a time. The path isn't always visible, and you won't always be celebrated for walking it. But as you align your outer life with your inner truth, you'll find something more valuable than external rewards. Today, I invite you to notice one place where you've been playing by rules that don't serve your humanity. And then, with gentleness toward yourself, begin imagining another way. This is how change happens, not all at once, but person by person, choice by choice, day by day. Your authenticity is the light the world needs most,